Dan Andrews, Gladys Berejiklian, two premiers facing allegations of misconduct, but is the media consistent in applying scrutiny to both? This week, it was revealed that New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian was, until recently, in a relationship with former New South Wales MP Daryl Maguire, who is being investigated by the New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption for allegedly using his parliamentary office for profit. Not only that, in an intercepted telephone call, Maguire allegedly told Berejiklian when they were in a relationship of his property deals, including reference to a pending meeting request with the Premier from a man named Sunito. These are serious matters and the public deserves answers, but Gladys Berejiklian was trying to dissuade journalists from asking about them.
Premier, do you maintain the position that you gave in the evidence in the ICAC hearing on Monday that you do not know or have not met Crown Group Chairman Ivan Sunito?
Well, please use your words carefully, OK? Please use your words carefully.
Not a good look for a Premier in those circumstances to tell a journalist to, quote, use your words carefully. As Sky's political editor Andrew Clennell observed...
Well, that is the Gladys Berejiklian I know. That is the real Gladys Berejiklian. That is someone who, like a lot of politicians, won't accept fault or blame or that she's done anything wrong. Let's face it, in her mind, it's ICAC's fault, it's the journalist's fault, it's Daryl's fault, it's anyone but her fault.
And the ABC rejected any suggestions that human frailty was an excuse.
She regrets it. It was clearly, she says she stuffed up, but, you know, she's not Robinson Crusoe. She's human. She fell in love with the wrong guy.
Sure. She's human. She's also the leader of the state. How could she then not have had concerns that Daryl Maguire was, quote, attempting to use his influence as a member of Parliament to support some of his business interests, as the counsel assisting the Commission suggested?
There's more. Some at the ABC were talking about if Berejiklian shouldn't go, but rather when.
What might be a tipping point for her to say that she will go?
I've been hearing from people all day, very close watchers of politics, and every person has said to me she can't survive.
The Australian's Troy Bramston tweeted, quote, bad boyfriend defence doesn't cut it. Where's the judgment, ethics, integrity? We need standards in politics. Berejiklian must resign. Well, that all sounds like a united front there, but the media wasn't so united when it came to applying the blowtorch to a certain Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews over who made the decision to use security guards for the botched hotel quarantine program. Last week, Sky host Peta Credlin zeroed in on a potential avenue of inquiry regarding who called then Chief Commissioner Graham Ashton on March 27 to advise security guards would be used.
But Chris Eccles, your records, Lisa Neville's records, and indeed your Chief of Staff's phone records, none of those at all have been provided to this inquiry. And I would think that that would be a very important piece of evidence to any inquiry worth its salt.
Well, you may choose to reflect on the inquiry. I'm not.
And only days later, the inquiry made a remarkable breakthrough as a result of Credlin's probing.
Now, he resigned this morning after the inquiry requested his phone records. They show that he held a 2-minute conversation with then Chief Commissioner of Police Graham Ashton during a crucial 6-minute window on March 27.
Damning stuff, but incredibly, some elements of the media have allowed themselves to become distracted by focusing on the fact Credlin is a commentator, not a journalist. Here's The Age's Chip Legrand tweeting, Peta Credlin is back interrogating Daniel Edge at a press conference. Yes, she works as a broadcaster and is employed by a media company, but she is not a journalist. She is a partisan political operative. Mr. Andrews is within his rights to tell her to bugger off. Sorry, not a journalist? Was anyone using that line with this commentator's observation regarding Berejiklian?
So I accept all of that, but it doesn't quite go to the question that I asked, which is whether or not... she's effectively being accused of willful blindness, closing her eyes to corrupt behaviour that was in front of her or could have been in front of her if she decided not just to shut down the conversation. Why do you believe that's not what actually happened here, given the words that she spoke?
But that's Waleed. And over at the ABC, the drum host Ellen Fanning seemingly portrayed this journalist scrutiny as a media vendetta.
It's an interesting question for a journalism lecturer, right? You've got this at the beginning of all this, from the Murdoch stable, from Sky After Dark, these frantic and relentless attacks on Andrews for wanting to lock down the state. I mean, has that entrenched, did that begin to entrench what Parnell was calling the blind partisanship, the cult of Dan?
I think so.
And while giving grudging acknowledgement to Credlin, Fanning couldn't help but attribute malice to her.
And in that 6 minutes, maybe something happened. Where can we have the phone records?
Yeah, so she did a great job.
Does it matter if her motivation was to bring down the Premier?
Meanwhile, the ABC's Raph Epstein even insinuated that Credlin's questions were no better than Vox Pop.
At the risk of trying your patience and these people's patience, I've had tons of people ask me, why can't I come and ask questions? You know, there's any number of people.
And in The Age, journalist academic Margaret Simons wrote, quote, much of the criticism is focused on News Corporation, and in particular, the Victorian political reporter for The Australian, Rachel Baxendale, whose questioning of Andrews has been the most aggressive. This is in the context of a persistent News Corporation campaign against Andrews. Sorry, aggressive? As 7 Sunrise co-host Samantha Armitage tweeted, why is it bad to ask tough questions of a dishonest or overwhelmed government following a joke of an inquiry when almost 800 people died? Good question. Could it have something to do with the fact that the progressive media is uncomfortable at the thought of asking questions that could potentially lead to the demise of one of the most left-wing woke governments in the country? What a farce. As Dave Hughes tweeted, non-journalist Peta Credlin got to the truth by asking about phone records at Presser 99 on Friday, an idea a $6 million inquiry hadn't had.